Special Agent Lundy knew Dexter's secret. The conflict between the biggest and the best serial killer hunter in America and the most sophisticated serial killer in history wasn't a one-on-one showdown as many might expect, but a series of psychological battles between them. There is no way that Lundy would not have noticed a serial killer working under his nose, and in this video we will talk about exactly that. From before his on-screen introduction, Lundy was set up as the genius serial killer hunter in FBI, someone who broke cases which seemed impossible to others.
Any idea who the FBI is sending?
Some guy named Lundy.
Frank Lundy? He's a rock star. The Green River Killer, the DC sniper. If the case was impossible, he broke it.
Even someone as smart and good at his job like Dokes admired him. From the moment Lundy was introduced, the show did its best to reaffirm the theory of him being a high-level threat to Dexter, as Lundy talks about how two parts of a body were not from the same one as everyone was speculating, but from two different bodies.
First report from the field had these parts as coming from one body.
Actually, it's two.
Actually, it's two.
Uh-oh.
The case of the Bay Harbor Butcher, with 18 victims found till then, was indeed a big priority for him, and he is not willing to make any mistakes, an example of which was shown moments later. After his first presentation, we see Dokes approach him and asks to be a part of his team, and Lundy outright dismisses him, saying he does not work well with other leaders, highlighting his need for control and his ideas that made him different from others and perhaps far more effective. The first confrontation of Dexter and Lundy happened when Dexter came to see the bodies of his victims with a clear look of nostalgia in his eyes, without realizing that Lundy was there. For someone as good and highly effective as Lundy, it is safe to say that he would not miss the look on the killer's face when he is looking at his work. Lundy engages Dexter in a conversation, but instead of talking about the forensic part like Dexter would expect, Lundy begins talking about the psychology of the killer, a subtle way of telling Dexter that Lundy is different from anyone else he has dealt with. What happens next gives us a peek in Lundy's mind and psychology. Lundy gets straight into the head of the killer, or shall we say, in the head of Dexter, when he talks about how a killer like the Bay Harbor Butcher works on a twisted set of principles, somehow justifying their kills in the name of justice, which made Dexter a little nervous. That level of precision was scary when you look at what Dexter used to do and what he is being forced to do now. Back then, Dexter was hiding when no one was looking, but now Dexter has to cover his tracks and his actions far more carefully when not just anyone, but someone like Lundy is working on his case. Lundy's character. While talking to Dexter in the same scene, Lundy says something unexpected.
But there's never any justification for killing.
No. Well, one, of course. To save an innocent life.
That statement shocked not only the fans, but Dexter as well, and truth to be told, even I was shocked that someone like Lundy will say this, and this gives us a clear idea of how Lundy thinks, because if he is willing to agree that killing is justified when it saves an innocent life, well, it's not a stretch to say that it's only reasonable for him to let Dexter off the hook because of that. As the show progresses, we see Lundy and Deborah getting closer to each other. Deborah was drawn to Lundy's stability, and Lundy was drawn to her fearlessness, which was nothing but yet another reason for Lundy to let Dexter off the hook. But we'll get onto that later. When Dokes became a prime suspect in the case, LaGuerta made it her mission to get him off the hook. She tried to gather evidence and even made contact with Dokes, which was not shocking, instead predictable. But when she comes to Lundy with all that, instead of dismissing her straight away as he should have, he entertains the possibility that maybe the Bay Harbor Butcher is still on the loose. But as he learns that LaGuerta had made contact with Dokes and did not immediately talk to police, and realizes whatever she has to say will be disregarded because of her obvious bias and the pressure by higher departments to close this case as quickly as possible, he gets furious, again highlighting the fact that Lundy knew about Dexter. For now, we know that there is a possibility that Lundy knew about Dexter by what he said and what he acted like. But later in the season, Lundy gets his eyes on evidence against Dexter, and he even talks about it to Dexter. Lundy learns that Dexter had submitted a wrong blood work in the Anthony Rodrigo case, which was highly unusual for someone like Dexter, but also that later he was killed by the Bay Harbor Butcher. Yes, all this was circumstantial, so Lundy talks to Dexter, not exactly making him a prime suspect, but his suspicion rose. When the case was reinvestigated by Deborah and Batista, they stumbled upon the house of a paranoid old man who used to make a lot of phone calls to the police and also write incidents in his diary. In there, they found out the number plate of the suspicious car which was there around the time of Anthony's murder. After running the number plate, it turns out that the car which was used for the murder was already in the evidence under the Miami Metro Department. This new information confirmed that the Bay Harbor Butcher was one of their own.
The only people allowed access to those vehicles are members of the Miami Metro Police Department. Holy shit.
Bay Harbor Butcher is one of our own.
Well, Dexter's involvement in this can be named as a casual slip-up, but that was enough to make someone like Lundy interested in Dexter. Soon Dokes' car was found with Dexter's blood slides, which linked him directly to the murders, and as he was already out of the country, he was named the prime suspect in the case. While LaGuerta had not stopped her investigation, she managed to find Leo, a blood spatter analyst whom Dokes was planning to use for analyzing the blood slides, which would have helped her when she would argue that Dokes did not know what was in those blood slides. LaGuerta talks to Dokes again and finds out that Dokes was out of country in operations when some of the Bay Harbor Butcher's killings took place, so he could not have possibly been responsible for any of those. She decides to approach Special Agent Lundy again when she presents him with the scenario. Lundy again did not shut her up as he should have if he was on board with Dokes being the Bay Harbor Butcher. Instead, he listened to her, and at least in private, he acknowledged what she had to offer.
It's worth looking into, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yes.
As we know already that he was skeptical about Dokes being the Bay Harbor Butcher, so what made him not come out against Dexter and point his suspicions, which were more than reasonable? Reason number 1. Lundy agreed that killing is justified to save an innocent life, and that was exactly the principle that Dexter worked on. It will not be a stretch to say that Lundy could have let Dexter loose because he thought of him as a necessary evil. Reason number 2. As we know that in Season 4, after coming back to Miami for the Trinity case, he asked Dexter for his help, which makes it highly likely that Lundy considered Dexter an asset, someone to use for his biggest case. While we also know that Lundy recognized Trinity within one meeting, so it is almost common sense that he knew Dexter was a killer. Reason number 3. Lundy lacked any concrete evidence. All that Lundy had was circumstantial and deniable. Lundy knew it will not stand in court. Also, there was a lot of pressure from the FBI to close the case. Even the lead of the case was taken away from Lundy and given to a senior federal officer who outranked him. Lundy was not a kind of guy who will risk everything for a hunch, including his relationship with Deborah, which according to me was the key reason he let Dexter go, because we have seen Lundy and Deborah coming back together after his return in Season 4, which means their relationship was far more than a momentary fling.